Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia and this is the Frontline Changes report for the day of 921 for the 1st of September for the past 24 hours. And I just finished a 7 hours DPA open mic. Do check it out. The link is at the end of this video. And there's a lot of frontline changes over the past 24 hours. And particularly over at the KURSK front, we have a lot of updates because the Ukrainians have released their updated mapping of the KURSK offensive. So we have frontline changes over at Topino, Alexandrovka, some part of the northern flank, Alexievsky, Kromsky, Biki, other parts of the northern flank, north central flank, Nedinov. And then we jump all the way to the New York front. We have updates over at the New York front at Torex, multiple updates at Torex. And then we jump to Mikhailivka over at the Pokrov front and Dolinivka, as well as frontline changes over at Vuhledar in the Donetsk front. We're going to jump to the KURSK front first. So there is some updates and the changes is largely over in the northern sector, the northern flank. And at the northern flank of the KURSK front, as I mentioned, there is not much updates. And we are waiting for updates to map out what is the latest situation, because it was under the fog of war. Now we finally have some updates. And what we do have is the Ukrainians dropping their mapping, and the mapping is very interesting. Some of these incursions, like the ones the Ukrainians previously attacked to Safanovka, the push towards Kromsky Biki, is all no more. So the Russians have actually retaken all these places. They have retaken all these places. They have formed the line just off Zuravli. And the incursion over between Kauchuk and Anastasievka is already also taken back by the Russians. The incursion towards Kromsky Biki is gone. In fact, the front line even lined up further to the point where the eastern part of Novosilovka is under Russian control. There is a lot of these areas are under gray zones by the Ukrainian mapping. So the map still looks weird because of all the gray zoning. And the Ukrainians, actually, the attack towards Alexandrovka was mapped by the Ukrainians to be coming from the south. So there will be a gray overlapping mapping from the Ukrainians coming from the south, from the Ogovka region, pushing up north towards Alexandrovka. The Ukrainian push towards Topino is no more. The Russians have fully retaken this area here. So you can see how complicated the frontline change is now looking, with all these frontline changes around this area. In fact, the frontline looks like this. So, and the Ukrainians has also claimed to have taken the entire region south of this area in the Malaya Lognia region. They have claimed everything. They say that this entire area is under Ukrainian control, and they also claim a little bit more grounds in the west of Nishaev. So this is very, very interesting if you look at this mapping change. So it is still not perfect. If you look at the Ukrainian mapping alone, it looks like perfect sense. If you look at the Russian mapping alone, also it looks like perfect sense. But when you put the two mappings together, it makes no sense. So, which is why we have DPA, right? So we have the mappings together. And so these are the frontline changes around in this northern flank of the KURSK front, and also of course the part of the Kernevo here has been updated as well. And so just to zoom in a bit, the Russians have taken this area in Topino. Ukrainians actually attacked from Vetrano region, Mafievka region, pushing up all the way north towards the area of Alexandrovka. However, this is not a capture. This is a gray zone at this moment because it cannot be verified. And so the Russians still have a line around here, in around Ogovka and Mavievka, according to the Russians. It's not necessarily that the Ukrainians have taken all these grounds. So the Russians are still holding the line all the way to Kremyanoe. So the Russians, however, we do have control over this area north of Zuravli, and the entire incursion north is all gone now. So this is the situation over in the Kernevo region. On the other side of the northern flank, the Russians have retaken all the lines. around the Alexievsky, as well as west of east of Anastasievka, and they even go all the way into capturing all the grounds to Novosilovka. So the front line actually is all the way at Novosilovka, and then Ukraine lines. This is gray zone. Most of this is gray zone, but at least the line is more cleaner. We now can see a much more cleaner line around here. And however, the gray zone is still pretty big, so we have to continue to monitor. South of this position in the Malaya Lognia is simpler. The Ukrainians simply claim everything. They claim that they have all of this area here. This is despite that we still have previous, not too long ago, 31st of which is like 2 days ago, they was still fighting in the region of Malaya Lognia. So I'm not sure how this is going to be corroborated. We shall see how this goes. So Ukrainians, according to the Ryba, the pro-Russian source, claiming that it's fighting at Pogrebki, Orlovka, Krulenkoe. So there must be some Russian regions, Russian troops in this region. So we just have to continue to wait and see how this develop. So very complicated here. And that's all for the frontline changes over in the KURSK front. Then after this KURSK front, the next frontline change, we move into New York front over at the Torex sector. In the Torex sector, based on Ukrainian mapping, the Ukrainian mapping have acknowledged that the Russians has indeed taken the entire salient, and they even mapped it further to the south of the prison. The Russians also make some progress towards the center and expand the control. So the prison currently is encircled on 3 sides, or rather 2 and a half sides, and not sure if the Ukrainians will use this as a defense position. This is unclear. Tentatively, because it's a prison, is fortified. So I'm not sure if the Ukrainians will hold a defense inside, or would the Russians even storm it. So tentatively, this is not clear yet. There's no intel about this thing at all, but the Russians are making progress. However, the Ukrainian mapping does not acknowledge the Russian incursion into the southern part. In fact, they used to have a gray zone until here, and this gray zone is now entirely eliminated. Now the Ukrainians claim that they have control, firm control. This is not just this firm control. According to the Ukrainian mapping, that the Ukrainians have retaken all these grounds around this southern part of Torex, moving towards Zalizny. So they claim that the Russians now defending the lines around here. So it is possible because we have no updates coming from the southern side of Torex. This southern pincer have not happened or have not developed much. So we do not know what is the situation over here. Russian forces retreating is a possibility, but because this is a Ukrainian claim, the Russians has not disclaimed it yet. So we just have to continue to map this as an overlapping mapping at this moment for this southern part of Torex. So we have to wait for more information. For example, geolocations and whatnot, something that can verify, or either that or the Russian side actually acknowledge that their lines have fallen back. So that's all from the Torex sector. And we move into Mikhailivka over at the Pokrov front. At the Pokrov front, there is a geolocation of Russian forces in the western part of Mikhailivka, confirming some Russian advance around this area. Because the Ukrainians does not acknowledge the Russians have captured that much ground, so which is why we have this small update. The Ukrainians, however, do draw the gray zone pretty far, something similar to the Russian mapping. So there is possible Russian presence in those regions. Over at the Dolenivka, according to the geolocation, Russian forces geolocated right in the center of Dolenivka, and given the nature of the size of Dolenivka, this is a confirmed capture. So based on Ukrainian mapping, on top of this geolocation, Russian forces have captured Dolenivka. They have fully captured this area here, and this will continue the battle away from Dolenivka as they continue to hit west or south, or continue with the complete conquest of Helsinivka if the Ukrainian mapping is actually more correct. So either way, Dolinivka has been captured by the Russian side. So after Dolinivka, the next front line change is over at Vuhledar. So at Vuhledar, at the Donetsk front, there is a geolocation. Russian forces has been geolocated over in the Pridenitdonbaska 1 coal mine. And the fact that the Russians are here is a surprise because it means that there is a huge push in the Vuhledar region. So this is Vuhledar, the fortress city of Vuhledar. Russian forces have made progress in this region. I tentatively still map it in this way, not as aggressive because maybe the Russians have even taken the entire street, but tentatively we'll draw it in this way in a slightly more conservative manner. And from this area, if the Russians take the coal mine, the Russians will be able to flank north, and Vuhledar will be in danger of operational encirclement. So this is the significant part, or significant development over the Vuhledar region, and this is the first real threat that Vuhledar has faced since the last time where the Russians, that's around 2 years ago, where the Russians take the Dacha and try to attack and storm into Vuhledar, which they failed. So this time around we have something more. So anyway, that's all for the Vuhledar region, and this is the Frontline Changes report. So do press the like button, subscribe, check out the DPA open mic that we have just had. We talk a lot about Ukraine, and I'll see you guys in the next update.